Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Natsu Comic Book. This being a show where I talk about TV shows that are adaptations of comic books. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about One-Punch-Man Season 2, Episode 3. Great episode. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. So we immediately have Bong, severely beating up Charanka and sending him on his way. It's kind of disparaging him in all the ways he can, and we know what's going on. We know that Garo is on his way. I mean, granted, we have no idea if he's really interested in coming to get any Well, I was about to say going after his master again, but he would have eventually faced off against Bong at some point in time. Bong is high up in the S class, so because he's rank 3, right? So it's eventually they would have crossed paths either way, but he's not actively going out of his way to go after his master because I don't think he believes he's strong enough yet. Maybe not. Because he's working his way through heroes very randomly. It's whoever he comes across, sure, but Charanka, had no one to turn to, so he went to Saitama and Genos because they're the only people he could talk to try and understand why his master did what he did. But Genos is in the know about everything. Also, I love that he had to point it out to Saitama. Saitama's like, who is this guy? It's this is Charanka. He's one of the small fry students under Bong. We met him last season, and it's I love that Saitama's just he's such unintentionally he's such a dick. He's just not good with names and faces. To be fair, to our knowledge, he only met Charanka one time, so it's understandable. But he seems like such a dick. Either way, Genos is because of what Garo did, most likely Bong is trying to get you out of the way because he doesn't want you mixed up in everything to come. In fact, Bong is joining forces with his brother to try, I think it was his older brother, to try and resolve the situation. But even he's Garo was already talented and very gifted and powerful before. God knows how strong he is now. Which, speaking of brothers, we do see him I thought initially, I was maybe he only goes after A's, but he ended up running into Moomin Rider. But I don't know if he knew Moomin necessarily was in C class. I think he just knows, you're a hero. Because he's going very randomly and just taking down any heroes that are coming his way. And he's actively going after some that he's more aware of. He's very indiscriminate with the heroes he's taking down, but he's morally paying attention to those higher up because the C's are at the bottom of the list, so why would I bother with them? And I think B's might fall into that category as well. So, but yeah, he ends up going up against the tank tops. But when I was bringing up the segueing with brothers, I was under the impression the 3 main tank tops we've come to know, the 2 that try to besmirch Saitama's name last season and the one that's S-class, I thought they were all brothers, which they could be, but now that we see there's a whole gang of them, I'm you meant brother in the Aniki type of way, or do you mean that legitimately brother? I can't tell, but it's a whole gang of tank tops. The tank top master, who's the S-class member, is he's the one that kind of trained everyone. They're all his his students. And so he goes up against Garo, and they're duking it out back and forth. He's holding his own pretty well, and Garo's taking some damage, which it seems like Garo's the type of fighter where it's I'm going to let you get some hit in first, because his whole thing, and it seems like he's kind of almost, it feels a little Sharingan-ish, not necessarily fully copying, but it's more once I've analyzed your powers, I know how to deal with them. I know how to counterattack them. I think it's interesting too that he was taking all that damage, and he could probably win without relying on it, but he ultimately ended up pulling out Bong's techniques, even though he's I don't like using them because they remind me of the old man. But it's without them, it's probably still would have done okay against Tank Top, but it's still it makes it swifter, and he's able to use those attacks deadly, because even if he's not directly using the techniques in the way that we see him with the blue wave on his hands and stuff, he's still using them because he uses it to basically use people's strengths against them and counterattack. And as Tank Top puts it later on, it's he knows how to strike all your vital points. So he's always going to, even if he never directly uses techniques from it, he will always use principles from it and make it applicable to how he fights. It's ingrained in every aspect that he fights. So despite all he says of I want to stick away from my master, don't want to be reminded, when you really have to fight, really, you end up falling back on those techniques. So it's kind of hypocritical to act like you're so separated from your master when you do so much that is so intrinsically him. But because he was able to kind of turn the tides against and start fighting seriously, he ends up really easily beating Tank Top. And poor Moomin Rider, who tried to like make a point when he started taking down those other guys. And he like, that was brutal. Grab Moomin Rider was like smashing his head into the ground repeatedly. And he goes through all of the Tank Tops. Even Charanka, who wanted to kind of, get rid of Garo for his master's sake. It's like, he knew he didn't stand a chance, but he still put up a fight. And so Bong and his brother came across the scene, and Bong saw, Charanka, messed up. And it's like, luckily he's not killing these people. He is like, he might, slice off an arm, bash them here and there. But like, I think that speaks volumes about him, because it's like, you're beating these people up, you're not killing them. So you're definitely not the monster you're making yourself out to be. You want to be a monster, but I feel like a monster would just like, yes, you're acting monster-esque in like how you're like indiscriminately going after people, but you're not attacking regular civilians. You're mainly attacking people who are heroes just to prove your own strength, because I guess it stems from some insecurity. Like maybe you are acting out this way because you feel like you're not good enough to be a hero, and you feel like you're being restrained as a hero, whereas monsters have so much fun. And it's like, but like, yeah, you were hanging around that kid earlier this episode, later in the episode, and you didn't just attack him, which the monsters would indiscriminately attack kids and humans in general. So it's like, the fact is your targets are so precise, it makes you not to be the incredulous monster you try to pretend to be. I didn't talk about it earlier when Taranka was at Saitama's place, but he comes there and he's like, oh, you got way more people with you now, because it's not just Genos. Fubuki's there, which I'm like, I doubt she's living there. Maybe she just stops by a lot more frequently. And King is too. He's like, yeah, when you're done with that, we should go back to playing. So I'm like we're just, at first I was like, don't tell me people are just going to randomly move into the small apartment. But it's like, no, Saitama's going to be getting a lot more guests going forward, I guess, into the story. Which we found out what Saitama found so interesting this episode was he ended up like learning from hearing about things from Tank Top Master and also from Charanka about like martial arts and stuff. He finds that so fascinating because Saitama's fighting style is very freeform. He just win, because he even, it's interesting because like the Tank Top Master would say like, oh yeah, monsters just like rely on brute strength. They're overpowering force. They just kind of go full throttle, like just kind of like force, where he uses techniques to counter you and stuff, Garo. So it's just interesting that honestly how monsters fight is practically how Saitama fights. He just wins by like overwhelming force. There is no technique to it. Once again, like what's his super techniques? Oh, last episode, to counter Sonic's speed, I just shuffled back and forth. It's not really a technique. I'm just moving side to side really fast, and I'm just happen to walk past you and then send you flying. What is his ultimate final technique? Oh, it's just like, yo, I'm seriously punching you. I'm throwing out a serious punch. That's all it is. Oh, like here's some very like normal punches at fast speed. Like that's all. Like there is no actual technique. It's just raw power. Is how he's always, and so he's finding that interesting because it's like, well, I think for him he's trying to hamper himself a little bit because it's like, okay, so maybe I have the advantage in raw strength, no, but it's like, oh, if I could boost my arsenal by learning martial arts and see how I stand on that front. So it's like, as long as I don't rely on my brute strength and I try techniques, we'll see how that works. But I mean, even if you're using techniques when you have your raw strength that you do, like it's still going to come through. Even if your technique and form are garbage, it's still you doing it. So like, a terrible, like, I don't know, martial arts move in your hands, even with crappy like positioning and form, still heavily outclasses most people at the top of it. Because the reason why he's not training with Bong is like, I don't want to like bully around an old man. So, which he does comment on, like, Bong having a cool name. He's like, Silver Fang. He's like, that's a cool superhero name. He's like, bald cape. What is that even about? It's like, yeah, you're bald and you're wearing a cape. That's all there is to it. There was no like deeper thought into it. I mean, you could say the same thing for Demon Cyborg for Genos, but the problem is, like, even when you don't dig too deeply on it, like, it's not that like crazy of a thought of that nickname, but you're still like, it's still rad and cool, and it's it's like, yeah, it's very heroic, whereas yours is bald cape. Circling back to Garo, it's so fascinating, his whole shtick of like hanging around that kid, and he's like, "Oh, can I borrow that guide for like a week? I'll bring it back." The kid's like, "No, get your own." He's like, "Why you gotta be so stingy?" I'm like, "You're the adult here. Like, why can't you just buy your own?" You're just like so like laissez-faire about it. It's like, "Oh, I'm gonna go hunt down other heroes." Once again, it's so like, if you come across me, oh, I know where some heroes are going to be, not others. And it's like he goes after Golden Ball because he read like, oh, Golden Ball's like main place to hang out. It's like this bar or whatever to get drunk. So I'm like, wouldn't it be easier? Like, the fact is, like, most hunters would have like a target list, and you don't have one at all. Very loosey goosey with it is what I'm trying to say. So he ends up going up against Golden Ball, but maybe if Golden Ball wasn't drunk and probably took the fight more seriously, he probably would have won. But Garo's like, cool, because you didn't like, because your first shot I barely dodged, but now I see it coming. Oh, you're trying to ricochet shot me now. Cool, you got me in the leg. You should have went for the head because now I see through your technique. When he does the multi ricochet shots, he carefully, like with the most minimal movements, dodges past them, and then the final one he just knocked away. So some of them get like stuck in the wall, knocked to the ground, or just knocked away in general. So he used up all his shots. Then Mustachio shows up to bail him out, which once again, the easiest way to deal with Garo is like you have to like catch him off by guard, like because he talks about it later on. He's like, I know your guys' ultimate techniques because I read the guidebook on you. So that's the problem with you guys being such big heroes. Literally all the information about you is generally out there. So like when Mustachio was like slashing and stuff like that, catching him off guard, try to use his super move, but Garo knew exactly what to expect and took him down effortlessly. He then went after a guy who was saying like he's an official for the Hero Association. I'm assuming this is one of the guys that Sitch had to deal with last episode, who didn't think, ironically enough, didn't think much of the Garo thing, but then immediately was like, hey, let's spend the next 2 hours on Genos and Saitama's names, superhero names. He's also, and we saw how nasty he is, where he's using like his funds and his position to try and like get girls. He's even like, hey, I can introduce you to my mask. All you have to do is both kiss me on my cheek. It's like, okay, creepy, powerful guy in powerful position, using it to, try and get ladies. Yeah, just and it feels poetic that they were taking pictures of him knocked out by Garo. So I don't know if he actually got any information on where Amai mask was. Be interesting to see how that goes because Amai is like rank 1 amongst the A class. So and we haven't properly seen him fight. And who knows how much information is publicly known about him and how much of what is publicly known is all there is to know about him, because he presents himself a certain way, but we've seen time and time again that like devilish nature he hides underneath all of that. So, but one of my favorite things is just how the episode ends with, of course, Saitama and Garo are going to cross paths. I was just curious when and under what capacity. I thought it would be maybe later in the season, but it's like, oh, maybe their official of crossing paths will be next later in the season. But he's like, hey, there you are. And Garo's like, oh my God, he's here. I don't know who he is. He must be some schmuck hero trying to bring me in. But it's like, no, that's not going to happen. And he tries to attack Saitama and it does nothing. And Saitama's like, what are you doing? He's like, are you trying to rob me? And then he attacks the guy and then moves past him. It's like, oh, like, give me that wig. And it's like, of course, that's what he was focused on. He had paid no attention to Garo. It's like, yo, I want that wig. And then he bounces with it after paying for it. I love that so much because it's literally Saitama being like, hey, what's been presented as the A plot? Screw it. Get out of my way. I'm more focused on what is essentially the C or D plot of this season, or my arc currently. It's my A plot, but the show OnePunch-Man as a whole, this is maybe the C or D plot, is me entering this tournament under the guise of pretending to be Charanka, because like the prize is 3 million, but even Charanka was like, don't do that. Don't try to pretend to be me. And just Saitama's just blocking it out, just staring. And I just love the stare as he's just like, oh, there's like 3 million on oh. And I love how that ties into the post credits where Saitama's trying on. He said, "Oh, that's pretty good." And Jonas was like, "Master, I had no idea this was such an issue." So he ends up calling up the doctor, being like, "Can you put like some not fiber optic, but like some steel type of fiber into my master's head. Could you do a surgery? Oh, you could do it. When's a perfect time? Okay, was it like next Wednesday? Master, what are you doing next Wednesday? He's like, you're not going to put that on my head and try to embed that into my skin. He's like, I'm not wearing this. I'm over the whole being bald thing, which I'm curious, like, has he really gotten over that? Obviously, it's kind of a sore subject for him, but I'm curious, like, is he just like, if I'm going to do it, I'm going to go about it the natural way of my hair growing back? Like I said, I'm wondering, is it a sore spot for him and he just pretends like it isn't? But he's just like, yo, I'm wearing this wig so I can enter the tournament as Tronka. See, that's dope. That's all it is to it. But I love, you gotta adore how much Genos looks after Saitama, where it's just like, Master, you need anything? I'ma hop to it. Obviously, Master's worried about his hair. Of course, I'm gonna like do whatever I can, hook him up with like, getting like some hair. I love that. That's so dope. Do anything to kind of make his master happy. Yeah, but the Garo of it all is going to be interesting because he met his match. And it's like, right, he's used to counterattacking people, but it's like, does that mean anything when, like, Saitama has no techniques? Once again, it's so freeform that he just, like, relies on brutal strength. Like, maybe Garo, given enough time, could counter that, but I highly doubt it. Because, once again, technique means... And funny enough, that's literally a line. I was just rewatching something. That's literally a line from, like, the first season of Mob Psycho 100 when Taruki was going up against Terada, and Mob easily dispatches him. He's like, oh, technique means nothing against raw power. It's that same conversation there, too. Because Garo thought he was hot shit. Like, yeah, he was getting a little beat up during these fights, but he was still coming out the clear victor. And he was so evilly outmatched, taken down by one strike by Saitama and just left unconscious. So, and the thing is, he doesn't know who Saitama is. Like I said, like, he's mainly aiming for A's and B's A's and S's. But he came across Moomin, who's a C. But it's more about like heroes who have notoriety. I think that's what it comes down to. And Saitama has none, despite him being a pretty high ranked B-class hero. It's because Saitama doesn't seem special. He doesn't have his own fan base. No one has stuff written about him because no one pays him attention. He's that's always been just the nature of his character. He's always the unsung hero, even though he's quite literally. Not quite. Probably definitely is. We don't know how he fares against Blast and Tornado, but I'm pretty sure he'd probably outclass them as well. But he's the strongest probably person on Earth, and no one outside of like Bong and Genos, as well as maybe Fubuki at this point in time, maybe not, and any enemy he's killed, like Boros, like they're the only ones who know the truth about how stupidly strong Saitama is and what he's capable of. So, some very, very interesting developments. I'm excited to see where the next episode ultimately ends up taking us going forward with all of this. But really, that's all I wanted to talk about. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.